Hey there, just wanted to come in here real quick and talk about something that's a little tricky to talk about because we're talking about ourselves here. Can a survivor be toxic? So, okay, after having had some heated exchanges with survivors of narcissistic abuse, and this isn't the first time it's happened, so it's not like, I'm new at this and haven't experienced it before. But sometimes when you say something, in a forum or in a group of people or to other survivors and they are triggered by their own experience, they can only see through that lens. They can only see through the lens of their own hurt. And they can't hear the topic at hand. They can't hear the subject that's being talked about. They can't hear anything except for you attacking them. And what happens is in this defensive state, when we get defensive like that, we start attacking back, right? We start name calling. And basically what happens is you start gaslighting the situation to match the delusion of your trauma, right? Not the delusion of your trauma, but the delusion of what you think is going on in the situation, which is in reality your own trauma and a trigger and a flashback to your own trauma. So until we can heal and get really, really good at managing our triggers and catching ourselves in the middle of these experiences where we are then attacking other people and becoming, frankly, toxic to a community and to others, it's really tricky, right? It can be really, really hard. And I really feel for people going through this and at the same time won't be a victim to it. Does that make sense? So this is hard to talk about without it getting too personal, but I'm gonna do it, and I'm doing it live on purpose so you can see that I'm not scripting anything and I'm not I'm just gonna talk from the hip here and talk about, I didn't even tell people I was coming on live, so I don't even think anyone is watching. And if you are, hi. Anyway, so when you are a survivor of a narcissist, when you have been gaslighted and when you have been attacked, when you've been projected on, when you have been silenced, when you've had your truth be in the background and never be able to speak it, it can be really triggering when you have someone stop you, right? And say, no, wait, listen, you're actually not hearing what I'm saying. When you have someone say, I don't know what it is you're talking about, when you're going off in one direction because you think it's what happened, you know what I'm saying? And somebody else is like, wait a minute. When we have conflict after narcissistic abuse, it is really tricky. We have to relearn how, a lot of us. A lot of people have to relearn how. A lot of people are diagnosed with borderline because of this, all right? Because I think a lot of people are diagnosed that way because it is a borderline attribute to not be able to listen to what's being said and to continue on with what you think is hurting you or what you think is hurting others. And then other people will jump in and defend the person who is being attacking because they see that perspective because they also think the same way as survivors. It goes on and on and on like this, and it happens over and over. And unfortunately, it can get you removed from communities where there is support because we can't have that because it is toxic to a community, and it can also make it really difficult when you try and engage further in your life with other people, and when you try and have new relationships, when you try and have an argument with a new partner and you instantly see them gaslighting you and shutting you down for trying to say their part. You know what I mean? Like, it is tricky stuff, okay? This is stuff we have to heal from. This is where the work goes from what happened to us to what we are now projecting out into the world, to what we are now putting forth into the world. Does that make sense? It's where we take accountability and responsibility for ourselves. Do I get reactionary? Of course I get reactionary. Do I get reactionary when people are attacking me? Yes, I get reactionary when people are attacking me. As the position that I sit in when I'm coaching people and the position that I sit in when I'm adminning on SPAN say, I have to take a back seat from my own reaction sometimes, and sometimes I can't. All right, but for the most part, it's taught me that even if someone is attacking you, you need to be fair to the situation. And I think that's the point, is that even when someone's attacking you, when you feel someone's attacking you, if you can be fair to the situation and see the bigger picture, sometimes it helps a little to step back from that trigger. Tricky topic to talk about because I realize I'm not talking about the narcissist. I'm talking about all of us, right? And I'm talking about us having narcissistic behavior toward other members in a community of support. Really tricky. Okay, so it's kind of all I got here. I'm going to keep talking about it a little in what can happen. Okay, so some things that can happen. For example, perhaps you are hearing someone say something. Well, let's talk about what happened. Honestly, so I'm going to make a video. I'm making a video about narcissistic women in particular. The reason is, there's two reasons. One is they're very different in the way they manifest and the way they act and the way they abuse, the cutting and calculating, the way they scream and yell is very different. They're an entirely different thing from the male narcissist. And anyone who's had one in your life will be nodding your head right now. People who haven't might not understand. Just like if you've never had narcissistic abuse, you don't understand it. You can't understand this whole spectrum unless you talk to a whole lot of people who've experienced a whole lot of this, okay? So it's not to say that they're wrong because they don't get it. It's to say that if you've experienced this, I want to validate that experience and I want to talk about it. It isn't talked about a whole lot, okay? And I found out the reason why. The reason why it isn't talked about a whole lot is when you try to talk about it, you're accused of being sexist. You're accused of shutting women down, of not letting women have a voice, of anything against women becomes a heated topic of debate. It's very frustrating. So people who have been in romantic relationships, whether they be male or female, with a narcissistic female, people who are the daughters and sons of a narcissistic mother, people who have had narcissistic friends, people who have had narcissistic female bosses, they don't have anyone advocating or helping them to hear and understand how it's different. The narcissistic female does different things. So anyway, I'll talk about that on the other video of what they do and how that comes across. But what I want to say is, trying to make this video, personally attacked and accused of being sexist, a terrible coach, like basically everything all over the board, because I would not agree with someone stating that this was about something to do with something that related to them. Unrelated, okay? So to be fair to everybody, I understand people are triggered. I understand that it's very difficult to hear and it's very difficult to listen once you're triggered. Once you're triggered, you're in reaction. My bad for not saying, oh, this person's triggered, bam, don't react. Because then it triggers me that it's like, wait a minute, don't shut me down. Don't shut me down from helping people to hear what it is they need to hear when it comes to narcissistic women. I'm not saying all women are this. I'm not saying no woman should have a voice. Okay. Anyway, I'm heated and I'm rambling. But the point is, when we speak to one another, when we are survivors of abuse, when we're survivors of narcissists and anything toxic that has shut us down and kept us from being able to communicate, we sometimes have to relearn or even learn for the first time if we were never taught how to communicate in conflict, how to communicate in conflict. It's, I think it's one of the number one ways that survivors can also be toxic toward relationships. I'm not saying they're toxic people, okay? I'm saying that their behaviors and the behaviors that we have in relationships we need to grow up and grow out of the abuse. Does that make sense? We need to learn to hear people without thinking it's personal. It's tricky because it all has been personal, right? So that's all I got on this. That's all I wanted to say. There are ways to work on this. It's really looking at oneself and realizing that where you are, is this person safe? If you don't know if this person's safe, don't engage. Okay, that's the number one thing. If you don't know someone is safe and you're trying to engage with them and be heard, stop engaging. Stop engaging, because all you're doing by engaging and throwing your opinion at them, especially when they're saying, hey, I don't even know what you're talking about. What are you saying if that is not related? All you're doing is making yourself the toxic one. Does that make sense? You're making yourself the one that within this particular piece of interaction, you are the one not hearing. You're the one not listening, and you're the one shutting the other person down. And all you're trying to do is be heard. So if you don't know if someone's safe, don't engage. If you do know if they're safe, take a breath. Take a minute to stop and listen to both sides. Active listening is a tool and a skill, and it's difficult. And once you can learn it even a little bit, you can go a long way for not having the kind of arguments that get things so heated and the interactions, it's such a rise that no one's listening to anyone. Does that make sense? hey, go relearn everything. So much reading to do. Awareness has to be worked on. It does have to be worked on. The relearning is part of the deal. It's part of the deal. It's where we take accountability for us, not for the abuse, not for the interactions that the narcissist did to us, or the the things that the narcissist did to us. We take accountability for our own futures, our own current lives, and our own relationships, right? Our own self within the relationships. So that's all I got on this. Does anyone have anything? There's only a few people here. I realized I did not even post this. I just wanted to get it out and say it quickly and come back later with the video I want to talk about, which is narcissistic women. So that's it. Okay. I will see you guys soon. You take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.